Listen closely because what I'm about to share could directly affect how quickly or slowly you get your Social Security benefits. The Social Security Administration is quietly closing or consolidating certain field offices across the country. That means if you need in-person verification, whether for an address change, proof of income, or identity verification, your nearest office might not be so near anymore. For some seniors, this could mean hours of extra travel and weeks, even months, of delays. So please stay with me until the end, because I'll walk you through exactly what's changing, who's most at risk of being impacted, and the steps you can take right now to avoid being caught in the backlog. And before we get into it, give this video a quick like, subscribe for more important updates, and in the comments, tell me, how far is your nearest SSA office right now? Part 1. What's actually happening with SSA offices? This isn't just a rumor or a scare tactic. The Social Security Administration has, over the past decade, been slowly reducing the number of field offices across the United States. Between 2010 and now, dozens have already shut down, and several more are in the process of closing or merging into larger regional offices. Why? Well, the official explanation is that the SSA is modernizing. They're trying to cut costs, reduce physical overhead, and shift more people to their online portal. On paper, that sounds efficient. But let's be honest, not every senior has a reliable computer, high-speed internet, or the comfort level to handle complex financial transactions online. And even if you do, there are certain things you simply cannot do digitally. Here's the thing. The SSA's own policy manual makes it clear that certain transactions, especially those involving sensitive personal information or potential fraud risk, must be completed in person. So when your local office shuts down, you're suddenly forced to deal with an office that could be hours away. I've already had clients who, after their nearby SSA office closed, had to drive more than 150 miles just to hand over an original marriage certificate in person. One woman I represented missed out on 2 full months of benefits because she couldn't arrange transportation in time for the in-person verification they demanded. And let's not ignore the ripple effect. When one office closes, the surrounding offices see a surge in appointments. That means the phone lines get clogged, wait times skyrocket, and if you need an urgent verification, you could be looking at delays of weeks or even months. And remember, if you can't complete the verification, your benefits can be delayed or even suspended. Part 2. Why in-person verification still matters. Now, some people will hear about these closures and shrug, thinking, well, I can just do everything online. I wish it were that simple, but here's the legal truth. Certain Social Security transactions cannot legally be completed without a face-to-face meeting. For example, identity theft cases. If the SSA flags your file for suspicious activity, they will not clear it until you show up in person with government-issued ID. Replacement of certain Social Security cards, especially in cases involving name changes or citizenship verification, original documents must be seen by an SSA employee. Complex benefit claims. If you're applying for spousal benefits based on a deceased spouse's work history or correcting earnings records, SSA often requires in-person document review, post-death benefit adjustments. If your spouse passes away, the SSA often requires a surviving spouse to appear in person with original documents before releasing certain payments. I've worked with clients who thought they could handle a claim entirely online, only to receive a letter in the mail that read, "Your claim cannot be processed until you appear in person at your nearest Social Security office." And here's the real kicker. The deadline on those letters is often short. You may get just 30 days to appear. If your nearest office is now hundreds of miles away, that's a logistical nightmare. I want you to imagine this. It's winter, you're in a rural area, there's ice on the roads, your car isn't in the best shape, and you're being told you have to travel all day to get a single signature verified. That's the reality some seniors are already facing. And I'm not talking about small numbers. SSA data shows that more than 1 million seniors a year still require some form of in-person assistance. Part 3. Who will feel this the most? Here's where it really hits home. Not everyone will be equally affected, but the ones who will feel it the hardest. Let's break it down. If you're in a large metro area, you might lose a nearby office, but there's probably another within a reasonable distance. In that case, the biggest challenge will be longer wait times and more crowded lobbies. But if you live in a rural community, a small town, or even just outside the suburbs, your nearest office could be hours away after these closures. The seniors most at risk are those without personal transportation. If you don't drive, you're dependent on friends, family, or expensive rideshare services. In some areas, rideshare simply isn't available. Those with chronic health issues or mobility challenges. For someone with arthritis, heart issues, or breathing problems, long travel days can be exhausting or even unsafe. Low-income seniors, the added cost of travel, overnight stays, or even taking a day off from part-time work can be a serious burden. Widows and widowers, these benefit changes often come at a deeply emotional time, and the added bureaucratic barrier just compounds the stress. Non-English speakers. In-person visits are often when interpreters or bilingual staff help explain complex forms. Losing local offices can make this support harder to find. I represented one man in his late 70s who needed to update his records after a name spelling error was discovered. His nearest SSA office had closed, and the next one was 180 miles away. His only option was to take a bus, which left at 5 a.m., stopped multiple times, and returned late in the evening. That entire trip was just to show an original birth certificate that couldn't be sent by mail. These are not minor inconveniences. For seniors living on a fixed income, these closures can mean missed deadlines, lost benefits, and an overwhelming amount of stress, all because their local office no longer exists. Part 4. The domino effect of delays. I need you to understand, when in-person verification is delayed, it's rarely just one isolated problem. It sets off a chain reaction that can spill over into other benefits, other agencies, and even your healthcare coverage. Here's how it happens. Imagine you need to verify your identity because of a flagged Social Security application. That's already urgent. But while you're waiting for that verification appointment, other deadlines pass. Medicare enrollment windows close. SSI income reports go unprocessed, or a benefit adjustment after a spouse's death gets stuck in limbo. In one case I worked on, a widow was due to receive a lump sum survivor benefit after her husband passed. The SSA needed her to appear in person with her marriage certificate and his death certificate. Her nearest office had just closed, so she booked at the next nearest, but the earliest available appointment was 46 days away. By the time she got there, processed the paperwork, and SSA finally cleared it, she'd lost over 2 months of benefit payments. That's money she could never get back because the payment start date is tied to the date the paperwork is accepted, not the date you first tried to schedule. And it's not just about money. If your Medicare Part B enrollment depends on SSA verifying certain records, and they're delayed, you could face a gap in your healthcare coverage. That means paying out of pocket for prescriptions, doctor visits, and tests, or simply going without, which is dangerous at any age, but especially for seniors with chronic conditions. What makes this more frustrating is that in many of these situations, the senior has done nothing wrong. No missed deadlines, no incomplete paperwork. Yet they're penalized simply because the SSA's nearest office is farther away and more backed up than before. Part 5. What you can do right now to protect yourself. Here's the good news. While you can't stop the SSA from closing offices, you can take steps to minimize the risk to your benefits. These are the exact strategies I give to my clients. Audit your SSA account today. Log into your My Social Security account and check that your address, phone number, and direct deposit details are correct. Mistakes here are one of the top reasons SSA requires in-person verification. Ask about your office's future. Call your local SSA office directly and ask if there are any closure plans. They may not make a public announcement right away, but sometimes staff will let you know if changes are on the horizon. Locate your backup office. Find out now where your next closest office is. Map the route. See how long it takes to get there. And note whether you'd need someone to drive you. Keep key documents accessible. Originals of your birth certificate, marriage certificate, passport, or naturalization papers should be kept safe but easy to retrieve. If the SSA calls you in, you don't want to spend days hunting for them. Schedule early if you know you'll need verification. For example, you're planning to apply for benefits or you're about to make a legal name change. Book the appointment as early as possible. Waiting until you get the official letter can mean you're already behind the clock. Use SSA outreach programs. Some areas have mobile SSA units or specific days when staff visit libraries, senior centers, or town halls. Ask if your county offers these services. By taking these steps now, you're essentially building a safety net. You may never need it, but if you do, you'll be glad you acted early. Part 6. How to stay ahead of SSA changes. The SSA is not in the business of giving you a personal heads up about policy changes or office closures. Their announcements tend to be broad and generic, and unless you actively look for them, you might not hear about them until after your local office is gone. That's why staying ahead means being proactive. Sign up for SSA email alerts. You can do this directly from your SSA account. You'll get notifications about office closures, new policies, and changes to online services. Follow reliable sources. That means senior advocacy groups, legal aid organizations, and yes, channels like mine, where I translate these changes into plain language so you can act on them. Keep a watch on local news. Sometimes closures are covered by local TV stations or newspapers weeks before the SSA's official statement. Have a plan B. Know how you'd get to your backup office if you needed to go tomorrow. Who would drive you? Would you need to arrange a rideshare, a friend, or public transport? One last point. When you receive any letter from SSA that requires in-person action, treat it like it's top priority. Even if the deadline looks generous, office backlogs can eat into that time quickly. The earlier you handle it, the less chance you'll face a gap in your benefits. I can't stress this enough. You don't want to be figuring out your transportation plan in the middle of winter during a health crisis or when you're already stressed about money. Preparation is the difference between a minor inconvenience and a months-long nightmare.